salt!
That's where it all began, sprinkled at the edge of the universe.
The supernatural. Things seem to be turning that way these days.
It allowed the Toymaker and his legions in.
My legions are coming.
Pantheon of Discord, and the last of the Time Lords.
What is this mysterious pantheon of gods who've been alluded to throughout this new season?
The one who waits is almost here!
Hello YouTube and people of the interwebs, welcome back to another Doctor Who video. Today we're going to be discussing the Pantheon of Gods, the Pantheon of Discourse, and kind of giving you a whistle-stop tour of all the potential gods that are about to enter or have already entered the Doctor Who universe. And I think it's very possible that after certain comments made by the wonderful Mr. Russell T Davies, we'll soon find out that the Doctor is a god. But who? Which god, what god, where god? But we'll discuss the Doctor and their origins at the end of the video, so stick around. Before I dive into this quick history of the gods, I am just going to ask you to please subscribe. The love and support for this channel is really, really appreciated. Thank you so much everybody out there, and if you aren't already subscribed, this is a channel full of Doctor Who-y goodness. We've got Doctor Who fan films on the way. We've got theory videos, reaction videos, review videos, every kind of video, discussion video, everything. Please subscribe, thank you. Let's get on with it. First, we need to try and identify who this Pantheon are.
I could feel this moment reverberating back through the ages. The meeting of the Pantheon of Discord, and the last of the Time Lords.
I'm going to be sticking to characters who've appeared in the mainline canon of the show. I may mention a couple of expanded media stuff, but this is mainly a deep dive into the show's lore, because there's so much expanded media stuff. There's been a lot of talk about the return of Sarah Jane Adventures villain, the Trickster. Now, we know from an actual episode of Doctor Who Turn Left that the Trickster is part of the Tricksters Brigade. The Trickster himself is a sort of reality-manipulating, evil, godlike creature. He usually appears in like life and death scenarios, so he'll rock up and be like, you can either choose to die here, right now, and you'll be dead, or you can choose to take this alternative path. He's called himself an angel and causes all manner of mischief and evil. He mentions in the episode The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith to the Doctor that there's a Pantheon of Discord, whom will eventually fight the Time Lords and the Doctor himself. In Turn Left, the beetle on Donna's back is directly referenced as one of the Tricksters' brigade. I'm not going to say this beetle is a god, but it's got those sort of godlike abilities. It creates that Turn Left universe around Donna, causing a life without the Doctor. In expanded media, there's a god called Krampus and someone called Hecuba. Hecuba may apply to Ruby because she's supposed to be like the god of stories, and there's a lot of theories that Ruby is the god of stories and is morphing reality, but maybe that's its own video. What about the Pantheon being referenced in Season 1? The Toymaker is kind of who we're going to assume to be the most senior of it at the moment, although the one who waits is probably more powerful. I mean, the Toymaker says in The Giggle that he's scared. Only person he wouldn't face was the one who waits. The Toymaker, as we saw in The Giggle and in the story The Celestial Toymaker from back in 1964, I believe, yeah, he's godlike being, exists outside of the universe, has his own realm, but has been invited in by the sprinkling of the salt from the 14th Doctor. So yeah, a lot of these gods who exist outside of the universe are probably coming in because of the events of Wild Blue Yonder. We also met Maestro at the start of this series, the Toymaker's child, so they are probably going to show up and do some more evil. I mean, the Doctor has defeated them, but who knows? They're clearly part of the Pantheon, as well as their dad, so what other gods and members of this Pantheon could there be?
One who waits is almost here!
A big one is from Doctor Who Season 2, The Satan Pit, the Beast. I mean, this is a god, or the devil. It's literally the reason, well, canonically in Doctor Who, it's the reason all major religions have this idea of the devil. He was supposedly born before the universe began. He was captured by the Disciples of Light and chained and imprisoned on the planet Krop Tor. He supposedly seeped into all conscious beings and seeded that idea of a devil within them. There's a lot of family connections going on with the gods of the Doctor Who universe, because in Torchwood Season 1, our main finale villain is Abaddon, the Beast's son. He's a giant, life-draining demon creature of evil. He doesn't really talk, unlike the Beast, who coincidentally is voiced by Gabriel Wolfe, who is an actor that plays another god we'll talk about later in this video. Abaddon's whole thing is like draining the life of people. He is trapped in the Cardiff Rift until Torchwood 3 in the year 2006 accidentally let him free. This all takes place in the episode The End of Days. Captain Jack Harkness can stop him, and I think kills him. It's implied he kills him, but I mean, this is Doctor Who. Any character, especially the villains, can die on screen and then just come back like nothing happened. But Jack, because he's immortal, pushes all of his life force into Abaddon, and it sort of overwhelms and kills Abaddon. There's another little group of gods share the same name as a major Marvel franchise. The Eternals, first seen in 1983 story Enlightenment. There's a lot of stuff in expanded media about the Eternals, but as I say, I'm sticking to the mainline canon of the show, so our first meeting of Eternals are the Black and White Guardian, who both sort of tempt Turlough in that story. The White Guardian is the personification of structure, order, and just sort of goodness overall. It's kind of like a angel and devil on your shoulder sort of scenario. Because the Black Guardian is the personification of evil and death and doom and gloom and all of those negative emotions. Their powers, once again, are kind of unknown. They're gods, so they can kind of do what they like. They're eternal beings that have been there since the start and probably to the end of the universe. But those two aren't the only ones we meet. Who could forget Fingerman? Yeah, his actual name's Zelen, this guy from Can You Hear Me, Season 12, well, Series 12 of New Who, the Jodie Whittaker era. Zelen can manipulate matter, sort of appear anywhere in time and space. He can even break through the force field of the TARDIS and appear in there in the sort of smoky ball of doom. But he's not as powerful as his lover, Rakia, the god of sort of feeding off children's nightmares and evil and chaos. She was sort of trapped in between two collapsing planets. She has the same sort of abilities and powers as Zelen, except she feeds off nightmares and is kind of more badass and evil. What's interesting to note about this pair is that they're both aware and actually name drop the Toymaker in Can You Hear Me? So that makes me wonder, do the Eternals, or these two in particular, have something to do with the Toymaker's legions, or the Pantheon that have been hinted at during this new Disney Plus era? We also have time, like time itself. From Doctor Who Flux, there's a lot of gods and kind of godlike things in the Chibnall era. Time doesn't necessarily have one form. They sort of speak through the other person, so if I were to speak to time, it would just be me speaking to a version of myself. They don't have a physical form. It is the sort of abstract concept of time, but alive and conscious. They warn the Doctor about the Master and the plan and the events of Power of the Doctor. They say, beware of the forces that mass against you and their Master. That, obviously within the narrative, was implied to mean the Master and the forces that mass against her in Power of the Doctor, but maybe Russell's going to kind of retcon that, and that warning from time from a god is actually a warning about the Toymaker and his legions, this pantheon of gods. Another quick mention is Sutekh, who was the other character voiced by Gabriel Wolfe. First and, well, only appearing canonically in the TV show in the story The Pyramids of Mars, which follows Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen as the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. Sutekh is, well, he is a god, but he's also just sort of an alien with extreme power. He's an ancient Egyptian god who uses robotic mummies to serve his bidding. He wants to get into the real world and break through and cause loads of havoc. He threatens to turn the universe to dust, sort of big, mysterious, godlike villain in a mask, who is very similar to another god we'll mention in a second. Before we get on to that god, who is my personal favourite god of Doctor Who history, we've got to mention Fenric, from the story The Curse of Fenric in the Seventh Doctor's era. He's another force of darkness and chaos. He's already implied to have been imprisoned by the Doctor some time ago, but he manipulates human history and human actions so that he's released and let free. He's got a whole host of godlike powers, telepathy, possession, and reality manipulation, I guess. He's a strategist and thinks all of his plans through, which kind of fits the title of the one who waits. He did a lot of waiting in that original story. Maybe he's waiting to strike again. But yeah, that's Fenric for you, a creepy one there. Moving on though, we're going to discuss Omega. Now, this is where the godlike identity of the Doctor is possibly going to be revealed, so pay close attention. Omega is one of the creators of Gallifreyan civilization. He was there, shown in The Timeless Children, with Tecteun and another person, we'll get to that. He got trapped in the antimatter universe where he begun existing through his will alone. That's how powerful and godlike this guy is. He just wills himself into existence, so exists. And he's got personal beef with the Doctor. Well, many incarnations of the Doctor. He's fought against John Pertwee, kind of William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, and Peter Davison. He even tried to steal Peter Davison's Fifth Doctor's body, but was unsuccessful. He's not as one-dimensional as some of the other gods on this list. I don't think Omega's purely evil. It's more of a tragic story, but a story that heavily ties into The Timeless Child, which, as mentioned by Russell T Davies, is the spine of Season 1. Omega also fits the title of the one who waits, because he's been waiting to leave that antimatter universe for God knows how long, and allowing him back into the universe because of the sprinkling of salt would make a lot of sense, especially when it's been mentioned in Doctor Who magazine that the villain of the Season 1 finale is something that's been lurking since the Third Doctor's era, which, if that's not Omega, I don't know what is. Omega would have the answers to the Doctor's origin. Throughout Season 1, the Doctor and Ruby are both exploring their parentage, and they want to know more. They're both adopted, they're both orphans, they both want to know what happened when they were little. Tecteun was a point of contact for the Doctor to get answers, but she got absolutely floxed in the... what episode was it? I think The Vanquishers, or maybe the end of Survivors of the Flux. She's killed. So Omega is logically the place the Doctor could go to get answers. And maybe the Doctor did know once before. Obviously they'd have known years and years ago, but I reckon, little theory here, the Seventh Doctor actually clocked onto their identity, found out about the Timeless Child, found out about the Other during his seventh incarnation. It's hinted at loads throughout the Seventh Doctor's era, because this is what they were building up to. The godlike identity of the Doctor is the Other. This was explored in a book called Lungbarrow, and obviously never happened in the official show, but there's so many hints. But who is the Other? Who is this mysterious identity that the Doctor may be the holder of? The Other is one of Gallifrey's creators. As I said, they were there with Omega and Tecteun during the Timeless Children, but their identity, and all of their history really, is lost to Gallifreyan legend. Nobody knows who they are, which is where they got the title The Other. Now let's say for a second that this place that the Timeless Child was found was a wormhole or portal to places outside of our known existence and our known universe. Let's say, before the salt was sprinkled, that the only way you could get to the Toymaker's realm, or the God's realm, or wherever that place is through that portal. And the Doctor fell through because the Timeless Child was the child of one of these gods. The Timeless Child actually belonged to this pantheon of gods. I mean, it's established that where Time Lords get their regenerative abilities from is the Doctor, is the Timeless Child, and regeneration itself doesn't really make much sort of biological sense. It's a very sort of godlike power. So to me at least, it makes sense that the Doctor is actually a god from outside this universe who, when in the form of the Timeless Child, slipped through a crack, grew up with Tecteun, Omega, Rassilon to be the Other, but obviously had all of those memories redacted and wiped by Tecteun and Division. Maybe, if not the other, the Doctor's godlike persona could be a version of the Valeyard, who is the evil Doctor. We saw back in the classic serial A Trial of a Time Lord, the Valeyard is an evil amalgamation of the Doctor somewhere between his 12th and final version. What if there's the Valeyard in store? Maybe the Valeyard is the one who waits. The Valeyard's been lurking and waiting within the Doctor's being for so long. But I don't know. In terms of how plausible this theory is, I'm going to say it's solid. It's not 100%, but I could see the Doctor being a god. I mean, his origins are obviously a big mystery, but we know he comes from outside the universe. Maybe Susan Twist's character, who keeps cropping up in all the episodes, is his actual birth mum, or someone related to the Timeless Child, who, because of the sprinkling of salt, has been able to come into our universe and follow and look after and try and find their child. Something like that. Let me know more theories you have in the comments down below. That does bring us to the end of this video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did like, please do remember to comment, subscribe, share, hit the like button, etc. It really helps me out a lot and allows me to keep YouTube as my part-time job. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.